Morning, John Edwards. Morning to you, sir. Deanne Charles. Morning. John Thomas. Morning, sir. Out there, Aline, Terence Swan. Good morning. Lucy Charles Ford. Good morning to you. Joy George. Alison Boys. Morning. Alison Rogers Joseph. Good morning. Cheryl Nuts. Adriana Alexis. Mina Lazari. Good morning, sir. Marva James. Morning. Debbie Markey. Anthony Joseph. Good morning, all. Julia Matthew. Good morning to you as well. Denise Coggin. Cheryl Seeley. Morning, Gillan. Annette Beard. Morning to you. Judy King. Morning as well. Jennifer Nathan. Morning, Patriot. Morning. Folks on Facebook, you're hearing me well this morning. Just checking to make sure. Morning, Joy. Pauline Buckmeyer. Morning. Patricia Nazari. Morning. Baba C. Morning, sir. Jennifer is telling me that the audio is low. Maybe I need to speak up a little bit. Carol is also saying that the audio is low. Volume is, let me see. Carol is still in Tobago? Joy Alman. Morning, Kevin Thomas. Yes, Kevin, I saw that story actually last night on the news. I think it's this controversial pundit Satyanan Mahabir or something. They had some meeting in Aranjuez. I think it was probably yesterday or day before. And he was saying that when you interview persons who have been victims of home invasions and you ask them to give a description of the perpetrators, he said they tell you the same thing in terms of the description, implying that everybody who is committing these home invasions are persons of African descent. In fact, he referred to them as miscreants of the East-West corridor. And there was an East Indian guy there who challenged him on that and said, well, no, you cannot claim that everybody who is engaging in these home invasions are of one race. He said, because people here in Aranjuez who looking like me, bringing people inside the area to do them thing. You say you're talking real stupidness, you can't be saying that. Yeah. Because as I said, this is a very controversial pundit. I'm not surprised that he said what he said. At least he was challenged for it by someone of his own ethnic background. But I don't know if it is that this pundit has interviewed everybody who has been a victim of home invasions in Aranjuez and other areas, that he could come out and make a carte blanche statement to say that it's only persons of African descent who are committing these home invasions. Right? But at least a resident of the area called him out on his nonsense. Told him it's people from the area who bring in people into the area for that sort of thing. Not surprised in the least. Five was folks come on. Yeah. You see who else is there. Chi Dimples, morning. Ian Bristol, morning. Alta Sampat, morning. Right. So I guess we could start, and the other folks will jump on. So just a couple things I wanted to address this morning. I don't know if I'll be as long as I usually am. It's never the intention to go that long, but then how the conversation ends up going. But I wanted to. I don't know how many of you would have looked at the Monday Night Forum, and one of the reasons why um, I I took the decision to do the show on Thursday and not necessarily on Tuesday. I'm still toying with the idea of the Tuesday. Was because I wanted to get enough time to listen to the Monday Night Forum, which I see they've changed the name to the Monday Night Report because they were getting a lot of links with that forum. But it doesn't matter. 6 of one, half a dozen of the next. They can call it what they want. We will still continue to refer to it for what it is, the Monday Night Forum. And I think this Monday in particular, one had to question whether or not that was, if that wasn't perhaps the best name for them to keep. I noted the opposition leader, who is the feature speaker of every Monday night meeting, save and except when she isn't there, of course. For the last few weeks, since that Monday night when she went to Sangre Grande, where she said she was feeling a bit under the weather and trying to decide whether or not she should come, and her husband said to her, "You need to go. Those boys from Grande came out for you. They came out for you, they represented you, and therefore you need to go." Even though she was sniffling and she wasn't feeling too well, and to drive all the way from Siparia to Sangre Grande, Mr. Besessa insisted that she go. I don't think he didn't accompany her that night. And it's not surprising because, the man probably saying, look, Monday night is the only night as get blind. And Monday night is the only night I get a little rest while I listen to you yap. So if you feel you're going to deprive me of that tonight, you're mad, you better go up the road. She said it took her 2 hours. And then she showed up looking like something that the cat dragged in at the Last Supper. Her hair in a mess, her face in a mess. But for those of us who have the belly to stomach the Monday Night Forum would know Mrs. Prasad Besessa's appearance is always on point. The hair is always well done and makeup look like it probably take at least an hour and a half to 2 hours to do. But that night she wasn't looking all that at all. But since then, normally Mrs. Prasad Besessa speaks for about an hour or so. But since that night, her speaking time has been getting less and less. She spoke for about 35 minutes, 36 minutes that night. And since then, every Monday, her speaking time has reduced. I know that Monday gone, she spoke for less than 18 minutes. Despite the fact that she came with this big folder. And she said, just before the end of the meeting, she said, I have so much to talk about. And she started flipping through pages in this big folder. But she didn't reference the folder at all. In fact, she spoke extemporaneously on Monday night as sort of platitudes about we need to stand up and fight and stand up and all this nonsense. And she chastised persons for who just go on social media and type. But when the time comes for them to come out, they don't come out. So she had an issue with that. And no more time for talk is over. And the time for this, and we need to stand up. And, less than, but 17 minutes. Well, I of course, for me, it's suspicious. As I said, for somebody who normally speaks for an hour, sometimes more, that for the last 3 to 4 Monday night meetings, she has not been speaking for very long. And I did see on UNC Cabal, which for those of you who may not be familiar with that particular Facebook profile, is an anti-UNC profile. And may have been someone who was in the belly of the beast and came out, and so gets a lot of reliable information from persons in the UNC. And the claim was made, it is alleged, that she may have some issues with incontinence and that she cannot control bowel functions or so. I don't know, but if that is the case, is Mrs. Prasad Besessa fit to be Prime Minister? I just asked any question. I just noticed it, and then she announced on Monday gone that coming Monday they will have no Monday Night Forum meeting because on Sunday they will be celebrating 34 years as a party. And to celebrate, they will be having an interfaith service at their new headquarters in Chaguanas, the third headquarters in the last 6 years. So they will be celebrating the fact that after 34 years as a party, you're still homeless. That instead of celebrating a deed, you're celebrating a lease or a rental agreement. How long are they going to stay at this premise before they get put out again for not paying the rent? So they're just moving, like the littlest hobo from pillow to post. 34 years as a party, no home. You don't have a permanent headquarters, but they're all over Balize House. Yeah? Balize House bothering them. Every day they're passing by Balize House to take picture to see how Balize House developing and making all kind of allegations. I mean, come on. Are they serious? Well, they cannot be serious. Right? But yeah. Leave Balize House alone. But promising when they come back into office, they're going to launch an inquiry into Balize House and where the money came from, and what kind of allegations that Balize House is being funded through drug running and prostitution and human trafficking. They really feel that Balize House is UNC? No, man. Behave yourself. 34 years. Speaking of, over this weekend, coming as well, the PNM will be having its Sports and Family Day in Togo on Sunday, and I believe Saturday is the Sangre Grande constituency Fun and Family Day. So there's a full weekend of PNM activities, Saturday and Sunday. So come out in your numbers and support. Yeah. You see what happens down in Chaguanas there. Yeah. Interfaith service. I don't know how Asha Walker to take that because her feelings with respect to the Hindu community has been on full display within recent times. She knows how she feels. So I don't know, perhaps when the pundit is doing his piece, if she will get up and walk outside and then come back inside afterwards. Or if it is that she will absent herself from all of the other presentations from the leaders of all of the other faiths, except the one that she supports, and comes back in. But she will not be a favorite on Sunday, certainly. And I'm seeing some bacchanal in the House of the Rising Sun, where the social media officer, the long-standing social media officer for the last 10 years, Alan Karim, has been replaced by Marsha Walker. And it is causing some unease, such that there's a Facebook page called UNC and Proud. Right now, they're having a big cuss out and fight out with Marsha and the leadership. So all of a sudden now, because Alan Karim was fired and his entire team replaced with Marsha Walker and her team, they suddenly realized the feelings of Kamala Persad-Bissessar and the shortcomings of her leadership. Yeah, all of a sudden. But before, they wasn't seeing it, right? So now Alan Karim is calling her out. He sent her an email to the executive of the UNC, in which he's accusing Mrs. Persad-Bissessar of being a dictator. But she wasn't a dictator all the time. It was all of a sudden because she bust your throat, you suddenly realize she's a dictator. And that the principles of democracy are not alive and well in the UNC. And after sending all of that, he appealed to her, telling her she's 71 years old, and asking her whether or not she thinks that she will be capable, because in 2025 she'll be 73, and she may not be in the pink of health and so on. And Mrs. Persad-Bissessar's response to him was, "Thank you very much. Agreed, however, we paid you for the last 10 years. So, yeah, that is happening right now in the UNC. You have several supporters who are on Alan Karim's side and are very upset with their political leader. So much so that UNC and Proud is even threatening to expose certain underhand activities taking place in the UNC, in particular with its political, not to step on their toes, because then they would be likely to reveal the real. Yes, reveal the real. Just now, let me see if I get this here. I ought to read some of that. For those of you who haven't seen it, you could go on the Facebook page of Rhoda Barrett, better known as News Source. And yeah, they have the whole thread there. As Rhoda tells you, make sure you have your cup of coffee and whatnot. Let me see what it says here. Right. Just let me get this piece here. UNC and proud. Proud that after 34 years of their party homeless. Ah, boy. Talk about having your priorities mixed up. Here it says, this is UNC and proud responding to Marsha Walker. So they had a little cuss out, if you want to call it that, over Facebook, right? Marsha Lorraine Walker, you seem to think that these images are untruths. This page contains multiple posts about you. How is it that you are not referring to those? Also, it's only because we are UNC and proud that we are not releasing the incriminating responses from KPB. Incriminating responses from Kamla Persad-Bissessar. We prefer to protect the party, not the wrongdoings of its leader. Let me repeat that. We prefer to protect the party and not the wrongdoings of its leader. You are still a member of the UNC, another bad decision of the leadership after your public outburst on Hinduism, on which you are yet to apologize. UNC and proud in this between them and Marsha, saying we prefer to protect the party and not the wrongdoings of the leader. What are these wrongdoings of the leader? I would love to know. So, all is not well in the house of the rising sun. So you mean Kamla Persad-Bissessar is not perfect? She's actually guilty of wrongdoings. You see how they're nasty? They inside, they know the wrongdoings that the leader engaging in, right? But they're quiet. Shh, don't say nothing. We attack Rowley, and Rowley, and Rowley this, and Rowley that. And Rowley's a raging bull. And Manning say this about Rowley. Yeah, but he say thing about Kamla too. Did they forget that? But no, it all Kamla is what is happening in the dark? They go on to say, Marsha Lorraine Walker, you know very well what you're doing is wrong. We support UNC. You support only the leader. That's the difference. Our followers now include you, so I guess we aren't doing too bad. Right. One of the supporters by the name of Karina Beechan says, how sad that the Jezebel of destruction has been unleashed on our once honorable party. Papa Laps. Alan Karim says, we have lost the lessons of Mahatma Gandhi and Nelson Mandela. We are now submitting to the oppressor. What? Alan, you're referring to your leader as the oppressor? But I thought Rowley was the oppressor. I thought Rowley oppressing the nation and be eating grass. All of a sudden now you all realize that Mrs. Persad-Bissessar is the oppressor. You see what's happening behind closed doors? But that's what they want to foist on us. That is according to them, the Prime Minister in waiting. The government in waiting. And Kamla was the best thing since but put up there, everything was good. But inside, it's in sun. Even there, they can't see eye to eye. And continue. Alan says, never let fear of getting into trouble stop you from doing the right thing. What is the right thing, Alan? Tell us. We want to know. If the UNC want to listen, Papa, we listening. Right. So I just thought I would touch on that a little bit. So as I said, as indicated, the topic of today's live is when they go low. And I'm dealing with two people today, Farley and one Philip Edward Alexander. Right? But I'll deal with Philip last because Philip needed a special attention. So the Chief Secretary of the THA, Mr. Augustine, as we would have seen right now, in his exchanges with the Prime Minister, in his most recent missive, tell the Prime Minister to, mind your damn business then. Mind your damn business. Now, last I checked, Kit Rowley is a native of Tobago, and therefore, Tobago's business is Keith Rowley's business, right? Forget Prime Minister. As a born and bred Tobagonian, Tobago's business is Keith Rowley's business. So probably damn fast and out of place to come and tell the Prime Minister to mind your damn business. And it seems that Mr. Augustine is confused. Now, Watson Duke is responsible for creating this monster. And now that he cannot contain this monster, is trying to foist the responsibility to do so on the PNM, in particular, the PNM in Tobago. He's saying that he will not be fighting the Farley and his team and whatnot. And so you created Farley, sir. Your plan didn't go to plan, unfortunately. Your plan not planning as the way you wanted it to go. And now Farley tastes the sweet nectar of power, as Mr. Warner used to tell us. And he loves it. He loved the sweet taste of power. You know, when he walked into a room, everybody had to stand up. And when he's leaving his home or leaving office, right? And I see he has done away with the BMW now, so he has a brand new SUV with flashing blue lights, and it pull up and special branch open the door for him, and he sit down in the back seat and they close back the door and he drive with escort and so on, right? And to the credit of Mr. Orville London, I recall when Ho Choy Charles was the chief secretary of Tobago, Mr. Charles made a point, and I remember these things. It's amazing how I remember these things because I was just a little boy back in those days, right? And I remember Ho Choy Charles used to be proud that he had a Volvo. Right? At that time, the official vehicle of the chief sec was a Volvo, and he had all of this sort of escort and whatnot, like anybody want to do the chief secretary anything. But they like Flam and all of that. And when Orville London became chief secretary, I remember he did away with all of the sort of thing, and he just needed just the car and whatnot, all this escort and whatnot. He wasn't of that. All the Flam, that wasn't him. But Farley seems to have gotten back into that group. Now he, fix up the official residence and so on, claim that the previous occupant, his predecessor, left it in a state, and so he liking the life. He's getting into the groove. I noticed before certain aspects of boyhood he has given up on. Now he has a decent hairstyle. He's starting to come into himself with respect to dress and so on. Yeah, trying to. Anyway, but Watson Duke created that monster, and now you want to put the responsibility on the PNM to fix it. And Farley is very out of place. But it seemed when at one point in time we thought that the driver of the separatist agenda, the driver of the secession agenda was Watson Duke. It seems now that Farley Augustine has taken over that mantle, because Watson now has aspirations for leadership in Trinidad. Well, he wants to be prime minister. He wants to be the mayor of Port of Spain. It's like he can't make up his mind what he wants to be. Every day is a different thing, right? But now he's talking about he wants to go back to Tobago and rally his troops and so on to take over the THA. Make up your mind. You cannot be chief secretary and mayor of Port of Spain and prime minister, Watson. You could only be one. Decide which one you want to do and do it. But as I said, like he confused, like he's still suffering from the after effects of that big toe. But he wants to put the responsibility on the PNM and to blame the PNM for what has happened in Tobago. No, you were outfoxed. Farley's sly and he is cunning, and he has learned how to handle the political game very well, and he's playing it very well. He has no intentions of calling any election anytime soon. Because I don't get the impression that he is all that confident yet. But as the TPP, the Tobago People's Party, starts to blossom, to flourish, as it starts to grow, once they feel confident enough that they've taken the support of the PDP, then maybe he might call the election. But for now, he got right where he is. But the THA Act, and have gone through it's very vague in certain areas, right? And perhaps that would speak to Mr. Augustine's confusion as to the responsibility of certain entities, in this case, the licensing authority, right? Because he and Mr. James, his Secretary for Infrastructure, are of the view that the licensing authority in Tobago is their responsibility, and that they could conduct and they could give orders and direct the operations of the licensing authority in Tobago. And it seems Mr. Augustine is a little confused. And let me just attempt to clear up some of that confusion for him. And all he had to do was a little bit of research instead of being arrogant. Let me get this here, right? It says here in the laws of Trinidad and Tobago, the Motor Vehicles and Road Traffic Act, Chapter 4850. Point number 4. The Transport Commissioner is the licensing authority. Let me repeat that. The Transport Commissioner is the licensing authority, not the institution. He, the Transport Commissioner, even without a building, even without a car, even without anything, he is the licensing authority in Trinidad and Tobago. And last I checked, the name of the country was still Trinidad and Tobago. The Transport Commissioner is the licensing authority, shall be charged with responsibility for the registration and inspection of all motor vehicles and issue of driving permits and such other matters as are assigned to him by the Act or any regulations made thereunder. Notwithstanding anything to the contrary in this Act, any reference to an Assistant Transport Commissioner, Automotive Licensing Officer, Motor Vehicle Inspector, Motor Vehicles Officer, Motor Vehicle Supervisor is a reference to a transport officer, and the functions or powers specified in relation to such officers shall be performed by a transport officer. It then goes on to say, the transport officers shall be under the direction of the Transport Commissioner, who may assign such offices, such officers as may be necessary to such localities and to perform such duties as he directs for the purpose of the Act. The Transport Commissioner, who may assign such officers as may be necessary to such localities. Localities anywhere in Trinidad and Tobago that the Transport Commissioner feel to send officers, the Act, the Motor Vehicles and Road Traffic Act, empowers him to do so. Anyway, Trinidad or Tobago, because he is the licensing authority, not the THE, not Farley, not Trevor James. The licensing authority is the Transport Commissioner. So when Farley take issue to say that the Transport Commissioner sent a horde of officers up to Tobago to terrorize Tobagonians and whatnot, that will never happen again. The Act in the fifth schedule speaks to a list of things that the THA is responsible for, and it just has licensing, right? But it is vague. It is not apparent on what licensing means. So it gives an entire list of things, but it does not go into granular detail as to the extent of the authority of the THA with respect to these issues and these matters, right? So it just says licensing, but the Act, the parent legislation, says that the Transport Commissioner can assign officers to whatever locality that he wants. So if the Transport Commissioner decides that all of the transport officers in Tobago, he wants to switch them out and bring them to Trinidad, and he wants to send some from Trinidad to Tobago, he can do that. It's up to him if it is that he wants to consult with the THA, the Secretary and the Chief Secretary. But at the end of the day, all transport officers, all licensing officers, as we call them, fall under his remit, and he has ultimate direction. So he can do whatever he wants. And Farley needs to understand that. But you don't understand that. So he probably took, to use his term, a cursory glance of the THA Act and tells himself that he has powers that he doesn't. Powers you think I have, I don't, and powers you think I don't have, I do. Right? Farley needs to understand what his powers are. But also, we see here, in the Act, Section 31 of the Act, the THA Act, says that the Prime Minister and the Chief Secretary, let me get the exact reading of it, are supposed to meet on a regular basis. Now, when it is Farley chooses to engage in this antagonistic relationship with the Prime Minister, how exactly is that function supposed to be fulfilled? Farley. So you tell the Prime Minister, mind your own damn business, and then you expect to meet with him, once a month, and let's sit down and laugh. You tell me going, boy. Hey, Farley, I good man. And everything good? Really? That's how you expect it to work? No, that's not going to work like that, Farley. But the position that Farley has taken, especially now that he is the interim political leader of the TPP, and I verily believe he will continue to be the leader of the TPP. Don't mind me saying, well, I don't plan, I am just the interim and whatnot, and the party will decide, and the membership will decide, and all of that. It has already been decided because they refer to him as Farley, is Tobago Saltfish. At the meeting they had the other day, when it is that he was proposing the name, when he informed the persons, the membership, of what the name was, and I spoke of this before. He said one man suggested that we name the party Farley Saltfish Party. And he went on to say, and one thing I could tell you all is that the last time I checked, and as recently as this morning, all saltfish sweet. Like, we really need to know that you eat saltfish. Anyway, but I made the point, if it is Dr. Rowley had said something like that, it would have been a horse of a different color. Yeah? He has his support base. And so he feels empowered now. I could tell Rowley what I want, because that is what Tobagonians want to hear. Or at least those who support him, that is what they want to hear. They want him to put Rowley in his place. Rowley too damn out that place. So you need to put him back in his place. When you listen to people like Bernie Jack Gregg, who vexed with the PDP, she vexed with Farley too, because she said, she talked and she did this and she did that and she promoted the party and helped them to get into power. And they promised her this and promised her that, and she again that her 20-something-year-old son has how much passes and he can't get work. And every day they're telling him, don't worry, you're getting something soon. By next week, you're getting a work. And can't get a work yet. Every time she called them, FK to answer the phone, yeah, don't worry, you'll get a work. He went and do some course in photography, and they wouldn't even call the boy to come and take out some picture when they have in the events. Yeah? But the same way I talk to put them in power is the same way I will talk to take them out. Right? And it's the same way I will ensure that they only serve one term. But she vexed because nothing for her son. She vexed whoever they promised her, she ain't get. You see, and that's the problem. When you're suffering from a severe case of didn't get, well, boy, pressure. Same thing in Trinidad, there are plenty of them suffering from that. They didn't get a HTC house. They didn't get a corporation, a borough work. They didn't get a corporation work, so they vexed with PNM and Keith Rowley. Yeah? They didn't get a food card. Severe case, chronic case of didn't get. And that's why politicians mustn't promise things to people. When I contest the election on both occasions, people ask me, the first question they ask you, so what you planning to do for us? I said, I'm going to tell you something. My philosophy is prescription without diagnosis is malpractice. I'm not coming to tell you I've given you this and I plan to do this. Unless I get a lay of the land and understand what is needed and what my abilities would be should I be successful at the polls, I am not coming to promise you anything. For you to come back afterwards and say, well, I see and I told you I was going to do this and do that. No. And that's something politicians need to stop doing. Stop promising people things. And then when you get into power, you can't deliver. Let them know. You tell me what your issues are. And if I am successful and I get in, I will see how best I could assist. But I am not going to make promises that I may not be able to keep. And while I may make the promise genuinely, I don't know what I will meet when I get inside it. May not have money or whatever other resources to do what it is that you need. Right? So let me do the diagnosis first before I write the prescription. Not that I write prescription and I tell you, here, go and take that. And that is not what you need. And then you end up in the mortuary. But coming back to the issue of Tobago, plenty of things were promised on the campaign trail. They promised these young boys, the youth of the area, you'll give all the employment. Don't worry. All you want a morning walk, you'll get a morning walk. That's what they were asking for. When I did interviews on 91.9 with the PNM candidates, I did attempt to interview some of the PDP candidates too, and they weren't amenable to that. So just to put that out there. But the PNM candidates were saying during their walkabout and they meet with the young people, with the youths, all they're asking for, they want a morning walk. They want to go to work 5 o'clock and by 9, 10 o'clock they don't work and they have the rest of the day to do whatever it is that they want to do. Whether or not anything productive is not a matter. But all these things were promised. But now, Farley want to tell Dr. Rowley, mind your damn business. Right? But Farley not even minding his own business. Because for the first time, every month I am seeing on social media where persons are sending WhatsApp messages to the different secretaries, informing them that they have not been paid. Their salaries have not yet hit the bank. Every month. Where it is that you have situations, I don't know if that situation has been resolved with forestry workers and CPEP workers who went 2 and 3 fortnights without getting paid. Meanwhile, every month on time, Farley's salary in the bank, Faith B. Israel salaries in the bank, and all of the other secretaries, their monies, their salaries are in the bank on time. And their salaries are much bigger than that of these CPEP workers and forestry workers and other workers who every month have to be complaining that they didn't get paid yet. Right? But they can find the money to pay the secretaries. We ain't playing that. But the poor, who they're supposed to be the champion of, is a different story. Has Farley spoken on those issues? Of course not. So I think it was last week, someone sent a WhatsApp message to Faith B. Israel, somebody working in the health department, indicating to her that their salaries are late once again and they have bills to pay. And her response was, good morning, thank you, have a good day. Have a good day. I ain't get paid yet. You get paid. Your bills paid. I still waiting for salary to pay my bills, and all you could tell me is good morning, thank you, have a good day. Fally, you need to mind your business and what is happening in Tobago, right? Because all is not well in Tobago. But Fally's position and Fally's stance, a continuation of what would have started under Watson Duke and this whole Tobago-centric agenda, has the potential to be very explosive from the perspective that, and I've been listening to the different airwaves and hearing persons from Tobago calling in and expressing their views. And I'm hearing a level of hate and a level of, I don't know, this vitriol towards Trinidadians. I've heard it said before, years gone by, where Tobagonians used to refer to Trinidadians as tricky Dadians in some cases, and that there was a level of distrust on the part of Tobagonians towards Trinidadians. But it seems since from Watson Duke come forward, that whatever deep-seated distrust, dislike, it has now been promoted. Now that, whereas before you weren't hearing this being publicized, or it wasn't being voiced publicly, a lot of persons from Tobago now, Tobagonians are coming out and stating, basically talking about Trinidadians, this, that, here, and the next. And you see, it stems from a lot of them taking China, from Vanus James, Winford James, and others who, during the election campaign, promoting again this Tobago agenda, that Tobago could go it alone and they don't need Trinidad, right? And talking about the Tobago waters have hydrocarbons in it, and if it is, we secede, and don't worry, we could, because we have oil and gas in Tobago waters, and we could handle our own stories. And that is why Rowley and them don't want to let go Tobago, because they want control of Tobago's waters. I saw some woman, I can't remember her name, commenting on the debunking UNC Live's Facebook page, telling us about final do our research and final why it is Rowley and they don't want to relinquish Tobago waters and all of that. I'm guessing she's from Tobago. But since you're all so gung-ho about Tobago's waters and all you want Rowley to mind the damn business, right? Tell Fally to go and talk to Mia Motley. Because for weeks now, the Tobago fisher folk have been complaining about challenges that they've been experiencing with Bajan fishermen fishing in Tobago's waters and overfishing the stock of flying fish. And the Tobago fisher folk ain't talking and calling for Fally. They're calling for Rowley. They want the Prime Minister to intervene. And he did so at the recently concluded 2-day symposium on crime, where he spoke to Mia Motley about the matter. And she did indicate that they had a discussion and they came to an agreement that the I think it's the fishing authority also in each country, they will speak on the matter. But since all you want Rowley to mind the damn business, tell Fally, call Mia Motley. Why he didn't do that? Has Fally spoken on that issue? Has he met with the fisher folk? What is his position? Because he's the boss. As far as he's concerned, he's the Prime Minister of Tobago. But Rowley should mind the damn business. Well, they should have said that before. He should have told Dr. Rowley that before the symposium, right? But again, because you have these so-called men of letters who are telling Tobagonians certain things with respect to what they can do, should we secede and not getting into the granular details of what the consequences of such could be? You see, because since that time when Christlyn Moore said, or advised Tobagonian hoteliers to put Visine in the water of Trinidadians when they come over and give them diarrhea. Since then, there has been a level of distrust. And with these expressions now coming from persons from Tobago with respect, especially if you listen to Darian program, Darian Marcel on I-95.5, Citizen Darian, and you hear some of the callers from Tobago, even when I was on 91.9, and in the lead up to the election, speaking about Watson Duke and the PDP, a few of them used to call and tell me I'm up to mischief and so on. One guy in particular. There's been this level of mistrust. In the recently gone Easter weekend, Tobago hoteliers and guest house owners were complaining that the amount of patronage that they would have gotten this year has fallen. That they didn't have the type of occupancy that they are accustomed to. Occupancy that is normally taken up by Trinidadians who go across to Tobago for Easter and spend their money. Right? And if it is that Farley continues to make utterances like this, and instead of being peacemaker, want to stoke the fire of this Tobago centrism, he must understand that there will be consequences. Now, I'm not threatening, no. But I am saying, when you listen and speaking to some persons from Trinidad who already have the view, well, if Tobago want to go, let them go. Let them go. Right? It'll be better for Trinidad. Let them go. Where is this coming from? We are a twin island state of Trinidad and Tobago. But Trinidadians have a way too. They are proud people too. And if I tell you ain't busting no style on me, so if all they want to talk about, oh, Trinidad, this and we that, and all they could do it, well, then fine, go all the way. That is how some people are thinking. And that mindset is going to continue to grow if this issue is not nipped in the bud. And the consequences, and you see, again, and this is why people like Vanus James and Winford James and the rest of them, well, now I see Vanus James, well, he come to his senses. I don't know if they give him nothing. But I don't know what his motive is. But, he's been critical. Did say that their first year in office was horrible. Yes, they achieved nothing and so on, and he continues to be critical. But if Tobago is to succeed, and they become a country on their own, Tobago has a population of about 65,000 people. They will be the smallest island, the smallest country in the Caribbean, perhaps even in the world, right? With just 65,000 people. You cannot support an economy with just 65,000 people. And maybe perhaps that is why Farley and Faith continue Tashia Boris. Every Monday morning they're traveling, going to this country, that country, to say that they're promoting tourism and promoting Tobago, right? In the hope of what? You're trying to replace Trinidadian domestic tourism with foreign tourism. But again, it still requires certain things. It requires airlift. The airport, that's all they didn't want. That Keith Rowley insists you must have to be able to accommodate more international flights. Now, if Keith Rowley had decided to mind the damn business and say, I'm not getting involved in Tobago business, leave the airport as is, that at any one point in time could probably accommodate at best 2 international flights, right? Because when that big plane comes from British Airways, taking up most of the space, you could probably accommodate maybe one other, and then the domestic air bridge. But it's Keith Rowley, in wanting to mind Tobago business, insists that we must build a bigger airport to accommodate more international flights, because if you want more foreign tourists to come to Tobago, then we need to be able to have an airport to facilitate them. That is Keith Rowley minding Tobago business, but you want to tell him mind his damn business. To mind his damn business, right? Understand the things that Tobago stands to lose. If we succeed, how we split in the divorce, how we splitting up the ferries, 2 for Tobago and 2 for Trinidad, half, 50%. That's how we doing it. To whom does the majority of the assets belong? The amount of money that would have to be spent now, because it means all identification cards, your passport, your ID card, your driver's permit, all of that becomes defunct, no good. Because currently the country on those items says Trinidad and Tobago. The currency says Trinidad and Tobago. So you have to get rid of all of that currency too. You have to burn that. Tobago has the wherewithal, the facilities to be able to print its own currency. What about diplomatic relations? All of these ambassadors and high commissioners and so on who are here, they have relations with Trinidad and Tobago. If we get a divorce, we secede. The United States government is in the process of constructing a brand new embassy in Maraval for $400 million. You really feel they're going and build an embassy in Tobago? No. If it is that you're in Tobago and you need services from the US embassy, you'll have to come here. The sea bridge will probably no longer be subsidized, at least not for Tobagonians. Probably subsidize it to Trinis, but not for Tobagonians. So in the same way now that there's a proposal that foreigners have to pay the full fare, and Farley was the one who suggested that, right? That foreigners pay the full fare, whatever that fare is. If you all are no longer part of the unitary state of Trinidad and Tobago, then I hope Farley is able to subsidize that for the Tobagonians coming to Trinidad for whatever business they have to do. I hope he understands that because it's now two separate governments, that he also has to find money to fund the GATE, right, for Tobagonians who are coming to Trinidad to study. I hope he's going to build several tertiary education institutions in Tobago, because the Tobagonians who are coming to Trinidad, since we're no longer a unitary state, will have to pay full fare. They will no longer qualify for GATE because you are not a citizen of Trinidad. You are a citizen of Tobago. So understand the implications for these things that they're not thinking about. And so Banas and them telling only, well, yeah, Tobago waters have hydrocarbons. Okay, so we see today and tomorrow what going to happen. Probably just going to go out in the middle of the ocean and plant a pipe, and the oil and gas going to come up, and they're going to sell it. How are you doing that, Fali? Just so? Look at the timeline that we're talking about for the Dragon gas. Even when, with infrastructure, some infrastructure already in place, we're looking at about at least 3 to 5 years before we could bring that gas to Trinidad, right? To set up the further infrastructure. You understand the type of infrastructure that you require to put in place. First of all, you have to get companies now to go and bid. Because it's not just, hey, BP, all come and drill. Shell, all come, they don't work so. You have to set up a ministry, a Tobago Ministry of Energy. And then you have to engage these companies. You have to have bid rounds. And then when they come and they bid and whatnot, and they have to do their research and seismic and all these kind of things. Offshore drilling is very expensive. Very, very expensive. Right? So you have to offer all kind of concessions to these foreign companies. And then when they go and they drill, if they find oil or they find gas, as the case may be, they now have to go and fabricate an offshore platform. And then they have to build the necessary infrastructure to bring the gas from the seabed to wherever it is, onshore, for processing. You feel that's going to take place overnight, Fali? So in the interim period, what are they going to do? The years that it's going to take to set that up. Because look, Guyana, who have oil and they haven't even really gotten into natural gas yet, because they don't have the infrastructure in place for that. Venezuela, who have all that oil and gas, flaring millions and billions of standard cubic feet of gas every day. Why? Because even them, Venezuela don't have the facilities in place to monetize natural gas, which is why, should the Dragon field come into play, that is why you will be monetizing for them. Venezuela, who has been in the oil and gas industry for years, you figure Tobago will just come just with a population of 65,000. How many people from Tobago qualified in the oil and gas sector, Fali? How many? Of the 65,000. What percentage of that 65,000 are persons under 18 years old, Fali? When everybody prefer to just work for the THA. When the majority of the young people just want a morning walk. Who going to work on the rig? Who going to work in that sector? You feel it's just so? You just hand them a book on oil and gas and they read it overnight and all of a sudden they're bright and they get the skills, Fali? I don't think you all have thought this thing out very well. But continue to take chin up from Vanas and Winford and these other guys. Right? Want to tell all, yeah, don't worry, Tobago could go on its own. We have oil and gas in Tobago waters. We have flying fish. And that's all they need, right? All of the other services that you get from Trinidad, customs, immigration, all of these different things. How are you going to say that up, Fali? You know, you want faith, well, not faith, I keep saying faith. You want to share now is real traveling, all you will have to do. To go to all of these countries in order to set up diplomatic relations. And they'll tell you it don't make sense. It doesn't make sense. We already have embassies and high commissions in Trinidad. For us to come to Tobago to set up a separate one and to hire and now assign separate persons to serve you when it is that you are just 20 minutes away from Trinidad? No. So in the same way, there are certain, I think the Saudi Arabian embassy, like 20 minutes away from Trinidad? No. So in the same way, there are certain, I think the Saudi Arabian embassy, I think is in Venezuela, so that if it is in some Trinidad require Saudi visas where we have to go across there, they're not going to set up with in such close proximity. They tell you, well, here, what, you need to come to Trinidad. So, and whoever are the ambassadors in Trinidad will also be given responsibility for Tobago. In the same way as it currently obtains, where some ambassadors have responsibility for several different Caribbean countries, but they're located in one. Again, I don't think they've thought this out very well. And Fali continues to behave like a little boy. A little boy. Because all he had to do was to pick up the phone Call the Prime Minister and says, because the THA Act talks about that, and since you're so gung-ho and so wedded to the THA Act, you should have read Section 31, which speaks to you, the Chief Secretary, meeting the Prime Minister on a regular basis to discuss matters relevant and related to Tobago's well-being. Let's see if I get it here. Section 31, not 34. 31, where is it? The Prime Minister and the Chief Secretary shall hold regular discussions with a view to formulating administrative and legislative mechanisms for the promotion of harmony in the affairs of Trinidad and Tobago. Since Fali has become Chief Secretary, how many times has he met with the Prime Minister? Does he care to meet with the Prime Minister? Because remember, he's on record as having said he doesn't care to take advice from anybody from Trinidad. He said so, inclusive of Keith Rowley. I might take some advice from Ho Troy Charles. He's a Tobagonian, but Keith Rowley is a Tobagonian too. But he's on record as saying he's not inclined to take any advice from any Trinidadian. He said that. And when it is that you put your foot in your mouth and you have people who buy into that, into this whole separatist agenda that Tobago don't need Trinidad, right? Tobago don't need Trinidad. Put it to the test, Fali, and see. Put it to the test. But it is not in your best interest in the interim. Because if at the end of the day, having put it to the test, you realize it doesn't make sense to do it. In the intervening period, the more expressions that Trinidadians keep getting from persons from Tobago saying all kind of things and you know, putting down Trinidadians and all of that is going to create an environment of hatred, of discord that you do not need, especially when the Tobago economy at this time depends on domestic tourism heavily. But you want to put it to the test? Continue and see what will happen in October when you have your carnival. See how many patrons you will get. Yeah? Buy a ferry or lease a ferry and send it to Grenada. Because that might be the only support that you will get. And maybe the few foreign tourists who might come down. So this date, I have not heard Fali Augustine, Tashia Boris, or anybody from the DHA executive call out Barrington Skippy Thomas for the live that he did the other day, where he admitted, where he confessed that some foreign tourists, some white tourists, asked him for directions, and he told them what part of their mother's anatomy to haul. Well, they're spending taxpayers' money, part of it is Trinidadians' taxpayers' money, to gallivant all over the world, see all they're bringing, or they're looking for tourists and selling Tobago. And when the tourists come, that you have one of your own, cussing them, telling them about the mother, how the mother make them, right? Unwarranted, and you all have not addressed that matter. Therefore, giving this individual license to continue to do. So if he come back to Tobago again and he go to a restaurant and some tourists see him and they decide to tell him good morning or whatever, and he tell them, hello, so and so, I want to know so and so good morning from you all. And he is the type of person to do that. A tourist could come here and spend 2 weeks, and one incident such as that could spoil the whole trip. That would be the one thing, the main thing that they will go back to tell their friends and family that happened to them. So we were riding our bicycles and we just stopped to ask our native of Tobago for directions, and he cursed us out. And they go talk about that. And paint a picture that all of Tobago is like that. So avoid asking Tobagonians for directions, because you never know when one of them will cuss you out just so. Fali ain't gonna talk about that, but you want to tell Keith Rowley mind his damn business. And okay, as I said, Keith Rowley is a Tobagonian. That is his business. That is his business, Fali. So continue to take China, right? Continue to take China. And continue on this warpath that you have taken up from Watson. Because I realize Watson dressed back from that long time. He ain't talking secession no more. Watson not talking about, it's no, before he used to say Tobago and Trinidad. Now, he using the correct term Trinidad and Tobago. Because he has aspirations, which Fali doesn't. Fali is content to be the Prime Minister of Tobago for the next 20 years. So Watson, like he got the memo, Fali hasn't gotten the memo. So he's still on that train, promoting secession, promoting hatred and discord, that we don't need Trinidad. We saw it when they went to Grenada to look at how to fashion their carnival. But it is that you have Trinidad and Tobago, which is still seen as being the Mecca of carnival, but you're going to Grenada. Really? Okay. Continue along that trajectory. See how far it will take you, Fally. You are chief secretary, but understand the responsibilities that comes with that. And in me reading the THA Act, nowhere in the THA Act do I see it says that the chief secretary has a responsibility to promote division between Trinidad and Tobago. You're very disrespectful. Very disrespectful. But we chalk it up to you, and your father is on record, but you say your father don't like Trinidad, don't like PNM. Right? He hate the PNM. You tell you if you are going to politics, go with anybody else, but don't go with the PNM. I don't understand what is this hatred some people have. Again, Bernie Jack Craig says she never vote for the PNM, and the PNM this and the PNM that. Right? But under the PNM, the Tobagonians weren't having to struggle to get the pay that they earned. You're getting paid on time because we weren't hearing these complaints under the PNM. Bernie. The PNM is the worst thing, right? The PNM have supporters in Tobago too. I don't know, again, other than Kelvin Morris and Ansel Dennis, I don't know what is happening in Tobago with respect to the PNM, because it seems all the other members, former members of the THA under the PNM, have gone into hibernation. I have not heard from any of them. I'm not hearing from Joel Jack. I have not heard from, I don't know, maybe they're talking, but I am not seeing or hearing anything from them. So I don't know what they're doing in Tobago if an election is called that has them thinking that they would be successful in unseating Fally and his band. I don't know. Again, we have a national PRO, we have a national social media officer, but I am not seeing or hearing anything in terms of promoting PNM in Tobago from those factors. But anyway, I'm not going on that road. I'm not going on that road. Let me leave that there. Let me leave that there. Right? Yeah. So Fally vexed because licensing officer pull over your wife. Well, if she had a license, she had no problem. She's supposed to be driving with her license. Tell her that next time. Work with her purse. But as a chief sec, wife, so what? So if you're driving on the road, you didn't walk with your handbag. So if you're driving on the road, you see some melange or something that you want to buy. You're gonna do, hey, and the chief sec wife, put £2 in the back seat there. How does it work? Yeah, don't worry, Fally will bring back the money for you. Really? Check him by the chief sec office now. Tell him I send you. Tell him I just bought $20 in melange, $20 in tomatoes. Yeah, tell him. Yeah. Buy ganchuka later. He like that. Tell him I buy saltfish too because he likes saltfish. Eh? That's what his work. Anyway. I have to say, folks, Tobagonians, Trinidadians love all. They love to come. Whenever I go to Tobago, I love to get my red mango and my sugar cake and all that different thing. I don't go to Tobago that often, but when I do, I make sure, I get all of these things. Yeah, Chinese love to come over and get like crab and dumpling. I mean, whenever I go abroad and people ask, where are you from? If I make the mistake, on more than one occasion that's happened to me, if I make the mistake and say Trinidad, they say, Trinidad and Tobago. They remind me the name of the country is Trinidad and Tobago, not Trinidad. Right? Foreigners in the US tell him, remind me of that. Yeah? It's Trinidad and Tobago, not just Trinidad. But it seems as if certain people in Tobago wish it to be so. Trinidad, Tobago. But you have not considered the consequences of that. That this is not something that, if it were to go that way, Tobago is it has more to lose than Trinidad. Right? Tobago has far more to lose. And it is going to take them a lot longer to set up an economy on which Tobagonians could thrive. Because if we go separate, things are going to continue as normal in Trinidad. As normal. Tobago, on the other hand, still depends on Trinidad for a lot of things. And if it is that Fally thinks that in the next 19 years that he believes he's going to be chief secretary, that he could put things in place, put the infrastructure in place to facilitate secession, well then, All the best to you, sir. Go right ahead. Do it as that you need to do. Right? But understand that you are doing damage now. That if that plan does not work, and if you sow seeds in the minds of Trinidadians, as Christlyn Maud Havizine comment, even Fali has managed to do something that even Ashwood Jack and they did not do, which was again to promote this kind of antagonism between the two islands that is totally unnecessary and unneeded. Well, call a referendum and see, ask the people what it is that they want, and if it is they say secession is what they want, well then okay. But that would not be in your best interest. So I just say it. I just put it out there, right? I don't think it would be in your best interest. It wouldn't be in Trinidad's best interest either. But at the end of the day, if it happens, understand that the Tobago economy stands more to suffer than Trinidad. All right, I'm looking at the time. Now, I had more to say on that, but maybe I'll touch it on a different time. But I need to deal with that counterfeit 1%. That wannabe Syrian, he likes to call himself. You know, I thought that when Kamla Pasabi Sessa was the ultimate quintessential, well, she and Munilal, I thought they were the quintessential liars, right? But it seems that Philip Alexander intends to give them some hard and stiff competition in that regard. And people have been sending me videos, TikTok, Facebook lives that he has done, promoting his party, promoting himself, and certain ideas. But you see, when your head's soft, when your brain's soft and you're intellectually lazy, you will easily buy into some of the things that he says. Right? You ain't gonna fool me with that. And so I have had to pull up some of my friends who keep sending me this trash. And I'm going to discuss a couple of it now. But I want to read something for you all that Philip Alexander puts out on his Facebook page. And not only on his Facebook page, he has been going from post to post, CNC3 post, CCN TV6 post, newspaper post, posting this comment proudly in the comment section of these different posts. And it originated on his page. And I need to pull up persons of African descent this morning, right? Because I noticed, I saw it, and not enough people engaged. Not enough people put this man in his place. And he needs to be put into his place, right? Let me read this for you, for those of you who may not have seen it. And it's still on his Facebook page, and he's proud, as I said. He's going all over the place sharing this. Here's what Philip Alexander had to say a couple of days ago. The people who should be protecting, or the people who should be protesting against the PNM the most are Black people. More Black people have been murdered in Trinidad under 60 years of the PNM than were murdered under 400 years of slavery in Trinidad. More Black people have been incarcerated and left to rot in jail, convicted of nothing in 60 years of PNM than 600 years of colonialism. 100 years ago, when my Syrian family started arriving on these shores, Afro-Trinis had land and language. Syrians had neither. Independence and PNM changed that. Now, Blacks own no industry and only take part in the economy as labor and as consumers, while every other race owns everything. Even Black culture in music and mass are owned by the children of these Chinese immigrants. And I guess he's referring to Dina Kim. The people who should be protesting the most against the PNM are Black people. Eric turning his back on Indians was the best thing to happen to them. PNM could sour hog food, could spoil vomit. PNM sent Black faces like Manning, Rowley, and Hines to fool Black people and ruin their lives. Black people's hands empty, but for handouts. Black people's hands are empty, but for handouts, because PNM fooled them and tell them they care. And even the people that hated them treated them better. PNM destroyed this country and destroyed the grandchildren of Africa to do it. That is Philip Edward Alexander saying that, right? But the part that really got to me was when he said, Afro-Trinis, no, where is it? Blacks own no industry and only take part in the economy as labor and consumers, while other race owns everything. That counterfeit 1%, as I call it, right? Counterfeit. the wannabe Syrian. You see, because there are three main characteristics that you need to satisfy to be a one percenter. He has the complexion, he has the convent accent, but he don't have the money, right? His pocket bare like Miss Howard cupboard, right? But you want to play tech. Every business venture that he has gotten into has failed. His most latest venture was a grab and go at Victoria Square, where the headquarters is. And that failed too, right? As he joined the gym now, he's trying to get rid of that belly that he had. Always have on this hoodie, trying to hide the big belly. Yeah? From his greed. Looking like he's in his second trimester, waddling all over the place. Every time he jump in his van, like he had to adjust the steering wheel to accommodate his stomach. But you want to come and talk nonsense about black people own no industry, and that the only purpose they serve or the only function they have in the economy is to provide labor and as consumers? You know why he can say that nonsense? It's because we have a lot of black business owners in this country who are not inclined to make themselves known. For whatever reason, they don't make themselves known. One of the projects that Philip Alexander loves to malign is the Red House restoration project, right? Which cost $441 million. And I don't know if it is the reason why he maligns that project so much is because of the amount of involvement of so-called the black people that he claims we own no industry. And that the only role we serve is as labor and consumers. So we go and we work for everybody else, all ethnic groups. We get paid, we take the money and we go back and spend it in their business. That is what he is saying. And this Red House project, I remember, in 2020, I just joined the National Trust. And Philip Alexander was all over the place, making a whole set of allegations, doing lives in front of the Red House, talking about how the government spent $500 million, $500 million, and all they did was to change the roof, change the flooring, change a few windows, and slap on a coat of paint, and that cost $500 million. And he was all over the place saying that. And it aggrieved Dr. Rowley more than people know. So much so that Dr. Rowley called a meeting, right? He called a meeting of the board of the National Trust, the architects who worked on the Red House, and officials from UDCOT. And I remember sitting in that meeting, and the only thing Dr. Rowley didn't do was cry. He was very upset over that matter because he said, this man is making these lives, going in front of the Red House. He went in front of the president's house and making claims on how much money and contracted this and all kind of kickback and stuff. And Dr. Rowley was very upset in that meeting. And he asked us to put out a statement in support of that Red House project. And he told us that he said he was even contemplating legal action against Philip Alexander. He was very upset in that meeting because he said, look, we are trying to preserve our built heritage. And this building has been under siege for how many years and how much money spent on it. And it took his administration when they came in to finish the job. And he took a sense of pride in leading that project with UDCOT under his ministry, under the office of the Prime Minister. And the other restoration jobs that were done around the Savannah with the Magnificent Seven, where he told us his vision before he leaves office is to have that entire district become a heritage district. Right? And he was very proud of, and I always remember that. The only thing Dr. Rowley didn't do in that meeting is cry. The man was so upset with all the lies that Philip Alexander was putting out with respect to that. Totally clueless, as he is now. But this man, who wants to tell you that the only role that black people, his term, serve in this country, we own no industry, is labor and consumers, right? But he wants to be prime minister of the laborers and the consumers and expect, with that kind of rhetoric, for the same black people to support him. But let me tell you something, right? Let me give you all some information to go back and to educate these clowns, and I had to call them clowns, who continue to share this man's lives, his TikTok and all of this foolishness, because all you find he's sounding good and he have good ideas. Yes, and we promoting PEP, but you all wouldn't take the time. Not you all here, but those who do that wouldn't take the time to go and do their research into some of the things that this man's seen and understand why it is not feasible. All right, but before I go there, let me address this issue about black people don't own industry and we only serve one purpose, which is, well, two, as labor and consumers. The budget for the Red House was $441 million, right? Let me highlight for Philip what he doesn't know. And when I saw that comment, I engaged him. I put him in the damn place, but up to now he hasn't responded, and I'm not surprised that he hasn't, because I am prepared to call him out on his lies and provide him with the evidence, so too. Of that $441 million, at least $105 million went to about 6 black-owned businesses, which apparently Philip isn't aware exists. Conveniently, he isn't aware. Let me give you all some of those businesses, right? Let me see here. The largest share of the biggest contract for that project. No, that wasn't, well, one of the largest. Let me get it here. Where is it? Right. So $60 million. That's not. I have the list here because Dr. Rowley had to come to Parliament and he got the list of all of the contractors and he gave out the amount of money that was awarded, how gave us the breakdown, how the money was spent on that project. I'm trying to find it here. Plumbing installation, Anthony James Plumbing, maintenance construction services, $7,430,902, black owned. Bewell and Company, Berry Ferdinand, furniture fit out, $3,643,713.81, black owned. Mr. Ferdinand is as dark as I am. You want to know? Go on, what street is that boy? Phillip Street. Yeah, opposite, just after the cemetery, couple buildings after the cemetery, Bewell and Company furniture, office furniture store, right there. Go there and because you ask to see Mr. Ferdinand. He's as dark as I am. Apparently, Philip know that. Electrical installation, $60,042,811.03. Lezama Electrical Services Limited, one Harold Lezama, a black man. $60 million. Apparently, Philip know that. Yeah, because all black people could do is provide labor and act as consumers. I continue. Lift installation, RBP Lifts Limited, $4,501,795. Robinson, Barnes, Perryman. 3 black men. The leading elevator and lift company in Trinidad and Tobago, RBP Lifts, owned by 3 black men. Well, it's 2 now because Mr. Barnes died a few years ago, right? Black owned. But apparently Philip know that. And I don't understand how we don't know that because Bewell and Company is right around the corner from where PEP head office is, but he doesn't know. He doesn't know that that is a black owned business. And just lower down the road, just needs to go further down Park Street, down to Murray Street, and he will see where RBP Lifts is at the corner of Murray Street and Arpita Avenue. In fact, the building, the first couple buildings on Murray Street, at the corner of Murray Street, on the right-hand side, is owned by RBP Lifts, not just the building that they're in, you know. They're renting out the building next door as well. But like Philip, he ain't know that. But black people could only serve as labor, consumers. I continue. A few others here. Let me see here. Where is it, boy? And this is just based on the research that I did, and I'm sure that there's others. There was a couple others. There were a total of 22 contractors working on that project, and as I said, at least 6 of them would have received over $105 million in total. But black people, York Structures Limited, black owned. York Structures, black owned. Let me educate Philip this morning, since apparently he doesn't know that. One of the largest fintech companies, if not the largest in the Caribbean, WePay, black man by the name of Aldwin Wayne. Dark as me, 30-something years old. He's in the process of setting up international, right? Throughout the Caribbean, WePay, largest fintech. But he ain't know that. He doesn't know that. He talks about Carnival, and let me see if I get it there, right? I don't want to misquote him, this idiot. He says even black culture in music and mass are owned by children of Chinese immigrants. Really? Really, Philip? Caesar's Army, one of the biggest entertainment companies, Bacchanal Road and all of these different big fets that they have for Carnival. Jules Sobian, a black man. A black man. Apparently, Philip don't know that. Yeah? They have one of the largest bands, Rogue, for Carnival. A black man. But Philip don't know that. Right? We have, well, I could probably reference that, but 91.9 radio station owned by a black man. Go up on the beach, Maracas. You have Richards Bacon Shop owned by who? Black people. Uncle Sam owned by black persons. Somebody needs to Philip. He talk nonsense. And you see this dotish mindset that he wants to push, right? About and the thing about it is the people who send me this trash, this nonsense, as black people like myself, supporting this foolishness. I saw his latest live. There's a building on Day Street that is for sale for $32 million. He went and he do a live. Now, I saw the ad pop up on Facebook, right? So the real estate company that's selling the building, 32 million. And he said, and somebody, I came across this thing because three people sent me this stupidness. He goes and he does a live and he said, this building here is 5 stories. And this building have this, and this building have that, and it's $32 million for this building. And the government could have buy this building and put the DPP office here instead of they paying Azar how much money for the month for that building on Park Street. And that you have Paris, and they renting Paris building on number 1 Alexandra Street and number 3 Alexander Street, and for years those buildings still remain unoccupied. This is a man who wants to be the next prime minister of this country. Seemingly has no problem in doing lies and telling blatant lies that could easily be disproved. Because you're always driving all over the place. The same way he could have gone on their street and do a live in front of that building. He should have gone to number 1 Alexander Street and done a live in front of that building, which he claims remains unoccupied and unused for all these years. And it's still so. Since 2016, number 1 Alexander Street has been the home of the Ministry of Public Utilities. Because when the People's Partnership came in 2010, after all the hullabaloo they made about the building and how they rented and Paris family and this and that and the other, right? That lease was for 3 years, from 2009 to 2012. When it came up for renewal in 2012, what did they do? They continued to pay the rent on a monthly basis until 2013. They decided to renew the lease for another 3 years. And so that when this administration came in 2016 and the lease ran out, a decision was taken, since that People's Partnership government had spent $43 million in rent, $5 million for security, and over $120 million to outfit. It did not make sense to abandon the building after all of that money had already been spent, close to $200 million over 5 years. And it was in those circumstances that the decision was taken to occupy the building, and the Ministry of Public Utilities has been in there since 2016. But this clown, this counterfeit 1%er, want to come and tell you that that building is still empty after all of these years. Number 3 Alexandra Street has been occupied for more than a year by the CPO's office, right? The Chief Personnel Officer is in that building. It is occupied. From the time the government rented it, it is occupied. They moved from St. Vincent Street, where the building was damaged when they had that big earthquake in 2018, right? And all of the tiles and stuff in front of the building had fallen down on St. Vincent Street. If persons were passing at that time, they could have get damaged. And they moved from that building to number 3, Alexandra Street, and they have been there since more than a year now, since they took up that. But he wouldn't tell you that the same building that he maligned now, that in 2012, Monilal, as the Minister of Housing at the time, when Presdi, which is the entity that is responsible for identifying buildings for recommendation to the cabinet to be occupied government ministries and departments, that they would have written to the same Zaman Enterprises in 2012 asking to rent number 3 Alexandra Street to house the same CPO office. He ain't gonna tell you that. No, he wouldn't talk about that. But when he talk about the PNM and the PNM and his PNM is the worst thing to happen to black people in this country. Really? Really, Philip? Really? And you have idiots like David Welch, who is the head of the youth arm of that party. Heel on heel with this man. David Welch's head is so far up Philip Alexander's backside that Philip can't tell the difference between his tonsils and David's head. But you have this clown you following around talking this nonsense about, oh, black people only serve, the only purpose we serve in this country is as laborers and consumers. Really? You didn't see who's the head of the government, Philip? You didn't see who's the head of the government, Philip? You didn't see that? But you want to be talking this nonsense and expect the same black people to support you. You cannot be for real. Cannot be for real. The next time you go up Maracas to buy a beacon shark and you go by Richard, they should spit in it for his idiocy to be promoting that nonsense. And you have people supporting this man now. Yeah, Philip, yeah, that's the next prime minister. That's the next prime minister. My foot. Where? You see me should be driving around. I'm seeing somebody saying here, Angie saying Alchemist Drugstore, African owned. Yes, Angie. Hollywood, Arapita Avenue, and they just opened a branch in Maraval, opposite RBC, black owned. But again, Langston Roach just got an award the other day, right? Household cleaning products and other things, black owned. But apparently Philip don't know that. The only purpose black people could serve is as labor and consumers. Nothing else. We don't own any industry. We own nothing, according to him. Right? So he say, hey, come boy, come. You want work? That's all we could do. You want work? Come. Carol is saying there are so many small black-owned businesses. Yes. But the problem is, Carol, they're not coming out and talk. They need to do that more. This perception that they have that is only the only people who own business in this country is the Chinese, the Syrian, and the East Indian. That is ridiculous. But again, I don't know if it is that some black-owned businesses do like to come out because they probably figure, well, hey, black people will come and run you down for and expect that you get them a work. If the people could work, they could work. A&A Pharmacy, and she's telling me, again, African-owned. Arlene's Mall, I think, is on Charlotte Street or something, so, right? Again, black-owned. This guy who had started the Black Caucus, his name slips me at the moment. Guide's Funeral Home, correct. Jenny Joseph is telling me. Allen's Funeral Home, Belgrove's Funeral Home, black-owned. But apparently Philip know that. Pleasantville Supermarket, Sarah Richards is telling me, right? They know that. The largest supermarket chain in Tobago, Penny Savers, black-owned. The Warner Construction Group in Tobago, that whole complex there in Bonaccord where Penny Savers is owned by, again, black-owned. Inez Gate, that the UNC always like to talk about, that, oh, Rowley he bought a townhouse there for himself and one for the daughter and they get a discount. Again, black-owned. WAC Radio, thank you. And Deco Trinidad Limited. But apparently Philip know that. Philip don't know that. We only got labor and consumers. Red Castle and JGS Supermarket in Dabadi, thank you. LB Supermarket, thank you. All of these different things. But you have idiots. And I can't understand it, you know. I really can't understand it. But you see, Living Legacy Pharmacy, black-owned, thank you again. You see how many people are aware of this? That this man feels that every time he could be, and he keeps posting this thing. This is what is upsetting me. He going from post to post to post and posting this in the comments, and you have people liking that, stripping it. Let me give you all an idea as to the comments of people support that nonsense. Eh? I'm going to read it for you. Understand what the thinking is. I'm not trying to, I really do like this restore. But it needs to be said. It really needs to be said. Let me pull up this clown again, right? Let me give you some of what, because I had people in the comments saying, yes, so true. Pull it up here. Idiot, but you want to be prime minister of this country. Look. Anyway, right, Let me get it here. Angel Trotman says you are correct, but their mindset is the problem. If they want a better life, they need to separate themselves from handouts and whatever grants they are being fooled with. PNM gives their MPs, friends, and families millions in contracts and suffers their devoted citizens. Lou Sandy, every word is true, but even the educated red supporter will deny that. Robin Hiralal, a nation where the people who catch in the ASS are the biggest supporters of the people who making them catch the ASS. These are the kind of comments that you have people supporting this man and his foolishness. But you see, and I will tie it back to the whole crime conversation, right? That this pundit, who I mentioned at the start, in Arangwes, who said that when you persons who have been the victims of home invasions, that when it is that you interview them and you ask the description of the perpetrator, Jenny says Maxen House. Yes. Denny's funeral home. Yes. In fact, the majority of funeral homes in this country, most if not, well, the majority are black owned. Right? But Philip know that. And he may very well end up in one that is black owned someday. Okay? So perhaps he should do his research to let his family know which one he don't want to. As Angie said, they just don't show off and they're security risks, so they don't want to be targeted. Understood. JGS Pharmacy, Allison says, in Maloney, black owned. Again. But this pundit, as I was mentioning, who said I think it was yesterday or the day before, made the point that when you ask persons who are the victims of home invasions to describe the perpetrator, it's always the same thing they tell you, that is persons of African descent. Right? Armstrongs, Simpsons, yes. Persons of African descent. And he had to be pulled out. But you see, I'll tell you in my own profession, right? My professional life, one of the biggest challenges that I have, I'm talking the talk this morning, is that in my experience with a lot of persons of Africa, more often than not, that we seem to have an issue or a challenge with legacy building and more so generational wealth and building generational wealth. That more often than not I hear when I deal with certain clients. Money for next thing I did and my husband go and pick up. They have. You know what their focus is? To build generational wealth. They love to say, well, I have enough money to last 5 generations and 10 generations and 15 generations. And each generation has the responsibility to ensure that they build up enough wealth to increase the number of generations. So at no point in time must any generation in this family line ever suffer. They must not, the stories that they must tell was how hard the previous generation worked to put them where they are today. They love to talk that talk, right? But a lot of times, the persons that look like me are talking from my own professional experience. My parents didn't give me nothing. The only legacy that some of us leave in, the only legacy we leave in for our progeny, children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren, is how hard you work and how you had to catch your tail. And your parents work hard and they didn't get nothing and they didn't leave nothing for you, but you work hard and you made it on your own. And therefore your children must do the same thing. And so the only thing they can hand on from generation to generation is stories about how hard they had to work to make it in life. And you think that is a good thing to hand down as a legacy. Meanwhile, the other folks, you know what they're studying? Generational wealth. Even though the Syrians and the other races and the Chinese and so on have plenty money, you know, they buy the most amount of insurance because they realize with just a few dollars a month, right, paying premium, they could increase the generational wealth by additional 5 generations or 10 generations just by paying some money every month. But not my folks. We're not into that. And they will fend for themselves, man. I am responsible for them until they reach 18, and after that, they could, right. Now, yeah, not all, but that is a mindset that a lot of us have. And as I always tell them, I say, look, if you do not come from wealth, wealth is supposed to come from you. And somebody has to decide, hey, enough is enough. You see this thing about just handing out stories about how hard this one worked and how hard that one worked and how your parents catch the tail? That had to stop at some point in time. I don't have any children. But I have a lot of insurance. I have nieces. I have a niece, a nephew, and a great nephew. So if God forbid, if I don't have kids of my own, they could benefit. They could do something, and I will ensure that I teach them, right, the fundamentals of wealth creation so that they could do what it is that they need to do. We need to understand our job is to plant trees, as I always tell them, whose fruit we may never benefit from. It's not about us. It's not about us. And a lot of these children who committing crimes, the 14-year-olds and the 15-year-olds and the 20-year-olds who we see lying down, face down in the grass by the Hasely Crawford Stadium, right? Or the pictures that we see in, lie down on the side of the pavement with a bullet in their head and blood flowing out. Ask yourself why it is that they're in that position. Why it is that they had to turn to a life of crime, some of them. Ask yourself that. That if it is the parents and grandparents, some of them had it in their mind to put things in place, even if it meant that you had to struggle to pay it, so that you could leave something so that when you pass on, you leave a legacy for them. And you teach them how to make it multiply. Then a lot of them wouldn't be where they are today. Where it is that the parents are, he want to go to school, so it's neither here nor there with me. I just go outside and do what it is I have to do. I go in and hustle, and once I pay my bills for the month, you good. You good. But you're not teaching them the fundamentals. And this is the problem. We want to talk about the underprivileged communities. But we're not teaching the members of the underprivileged communities what it is that they need to come out and to make the underprivileged communities become privileged communities. We're not teaching them. You know why? Because it is in the best interest of some politicians to ensure that the underprivileged communities remain underprivileged. Because then we could promise them all kinds of things, handouts, so that we could get their votes. But if it is that they are financially independent and they don't need to rely on the government for anything, you can't buy me with a food card. You can't buy me with Color Me Orange. You cannot buy me with baby grant $500 a month to my child. So it is not in my best interest to advocate anything to bring you out. So I will talk the talk. But when the time comes, I'm not doing one damn thing to make your underprivileged community become privileged. We're not interested in that. It is in the best interest of the lawyers to ensure that you have the underprivileged community remain underprivileged. Because why? That is where the crime will originate. They are more prone to and inclined to crime. So that we can ensure that you have the underprivileged community remain underprivileged. Because why? That is where the crime will originate. They are more prone to and inclined to crime. So that we can ensure that we continue to eat our food. Because we have clients that we could depend on, because we know more often than not, we're going to get a call just now from the mother or father, somebody saying that the child need a lawyer. They're not interested in improving the lot of the underprivileged communities. But you know, we go on Facebook and we go cuss out the Minister of Housing because HDC put out people who are not supposed to be in certain houses. And you put the people out in the rain, and you're wicked, and you're this and you're that. But you wouldn't go and advocate to say, well, look, let me talk to somebody who could come into the community and talk to them about financial planning. For some reason, we don't like to talk estate planning. Right? I'm talking here from my professional background. Because I lecture in estate planning. And it hurts me when it is that I talk to people about these things. People who look like me. But we don't like to entertain that conversation. No, that's not my time. When I send them to school, after that, you know what is legacy we teaching? Here work. You go to secondary school, and when you finish your work, go and look for government work. Right? And you could put yourself through school at a gate, access gate, and try and see if it is that you could get a degree and move up. We're not talking entrepreneurship. How they can start their own business and create employment for others like themselves. We ain't talking that. No, you wouldn't tell them. We have all of these Black-owned businesses. Let me go and talk to some of the owners of these Black-owned businesses so that they could come into the community and talk to the young people and tell them how they started the business. You wouldn't tell them, well, all right, well, let me see. We have all of these Black-owned businesses. Let me go and talk to some of the owners of these Black-owned businesses so that they could come into the community and talk to the young people and tell them how they started the business and share ideas with them on business ideas that they could develop. Talk to them about, and no, but we want to talk about labor, as Philip said. Right? Talk to them about how they should be employees. Get a degree, get a certificate, and look for work. And better certificate government work, you could work there for 33 and a third, and at the end of that 33 and a third, you get your full pension, and you could relax and put up your foot. And we figure a family indemnity plan is the be-all and end-all. So I take out a family indemnity plan, and I'm not knocking it, you know, it serves its purpose. But if it is that your only focus in taking out a family indemnity plan is to pay for the funeral expenses, and what you leave behind is for the children, you have 5, 6 children, or how much ever, for them to fight for the one house that you leave behind. You ain't do a will. So they have to know you ain't do a will. So they have to know one file for letters of administration and fight up. Everybody want to fight up now for the one house that you leave, the one piece of property that you leave. Everybody want to fight for the bed sheets and the wares in the buffet. Right? And mommy did say that I was supposed to get that ring. That's what we're supposed to be doing. Fighting like cat and dog over trinkets. When it is that you're supposed to, there are avenues in place for you to leave something substantial for your children and your grandchildren. No, we ain't doing that. We only want to leave stories in the 80s and the 60s. And how and coal pot. And how your grandmother used to use coal pot. Yeah. And that's the stories that is the legacy that we want to leave. Meanwhile, on the other side, you know, these stories, yeah, they get stories too, but have money to go with it. About how hard they work and what was the mindset when they opened this business and when they opened that business and they opened the other business. That is what we need to be doing. The Black Caucus had a good idea, you know, but I don't know. They just went, yeah, haywire. But we always like to talk about the Syrian and them and thing, and then so you vex because they want to build wealth. You vex because they want to build generational wealth, and it's very simple for you to do. Let it start with you. Take the decision, so that people like Philip Alexander wouldn't be able to come on social media and post that nonsense. So that whenever it is that next clown, Inchan Ishmael, when he decides to give arms, right, to give out food, that when and then while he doing that, giving out arms, taking a census of the ethnic background of the people who come in for food, so that he could talk about it later and say how much African he helped. But that is the problem, that we empower these people to be able to say these stupid things. Every time Inchan Ishmael has something, when you go through the line, a long line, everybody says, hey, Mr. Inchan, you're coming for hamper. Go in. And all you doing checking 1, 2, 3, 4. We gave out hampers today, and how many Africans came. And that the PNM and taking care of their own. And the majority of the people in the line is Africans who voted for PNM all these years, that the PNM is taking census. So that he could go on Facebook and say, yes, we gave out hampers today, and how many Africans came. And that the PNM and taking care of their own. And the majority of the people in the line is Africans who voted for PNM all these years, that the PNM is after 60 years, and the people still suffering. You are giving them license to be able to talk that nonsense. That's what we're doing. Educate the community. Education is best, and the type of education we have an issue with. We need to move away from the only maths and English. Have schools for that, but give them the education that they're not getting in the school. Educate them about economics and how it works. Entrepreneurship. To start their own business, you could start small and grow from there. But we only had to be hearing stories about how Sabga, and when the family used to be riding around on bicycles, selling cloth. They used to be coming and selling cloth, and they're selling cloth on credit too. Yeah, and Chin Chinese shop back in the days, and how Chin thing and now watch Chin grandchildren and them open how much hardware store and how much variety store all over the place. And look how much business Sabga family own now. Yeah, and they start off from riding bike, selling cloth. What the African was doing? What he was doing? And they're making big money on the port. What they do with the money? We always say these stories about how when they left, those who left land, and as soon as they leave it to the children and grandchildren, they sell it to buy motor car. Why we had to be hearing those stories? I'm fed up hearing those stories. Fed up. Let us hear stories about how Simpson started, how Belgrove started, how Allen started. Let us hear stories about how Langston Road started, right? How RBP Lift started and Lazama Electrical. That is what we want to hear. How those businesses started. And what advice they could impart so that you could go and start your own business. Let us say about how these different businesses plan to come together to start a fund so that the young Black person who just come out of school with all of the passes, and we like to say, well, if they can't get work because every time they say they're from Laventille, they throw your resume in the garbage. What are we doing to change that? What are we doing? Right? Where is the fund so that they could, we love to say the bank would like to lend Black people money to start business. And we content to talk about that for another 20, 30 years, right? And that making sense. What are we doing to fix that? Tell them about the credit union. The banks aren't the only places that lend money. From the time the child's small, the time they're born, open an account in the credit union and put some money in it. So that by the time they reach 18 and 20, you have a sufficient amount of money inside there. So if it is that your child is inclined towards entrepreneurship, you have a starting thing. They could go and take a loan on that. Sometimes the credit unions give you loans 2, 3, 4 times your shares. That is what we're supposed to be doing instead of talking story about how hard you work and how you catch your tail to get where you are today, because that's not helping your child. It's not. That when it is that your child in Form 5 and Form 6 and they want to go abroad to study, you can't do that. They have to get a scholarship. And if they get a scholarship, well, they have to go and work and try and see what they could do. Lewis Appliances, thank you so much. Another one. Yes. And there's a business, a commercial restaurant business right next door to that too. Exactly. Deborah Durante is saying economics is not buying $2,000 on sneakers when you can't afford it. So true. Or spending thousands of dollars on a, what do you call it? Slave ban. You hear the name? Slave ban. So long slavery done, but we still buying slave ban. And we buying big chain, big gold chain. So we still wedded to the chains, just in a different form. But that is what you want to spend your money on. You get a piece of money, you go and you buy a motor car and you pimp it out. You drop low, 20 and 22-inch rims. Yeah? You're driving on the road and frustrating everybody because the car had to angle so to go over the speed bump. But that making sense. That making sense. You're walking on a big gold chain, making yourself a target to get robbed and get killed. Instead, you could have taken that money and start a business, a side business. Even if you have your day job 8 to 4, you could do something on the side. Again, I made the point. You have all of these companies that all continuing studies have a whole set, long list. Every 3 months they post now this long list of short courses that you could go and do, costing $950, $1,100, $1,500. Some people will say, yeah, some people can't afford that. They want to buy something bad enough. You know what? They could save their money to put it in Susu. Some of them, they have 2 and 3 hands in the same Susu. When they want to get a cell phone, they know to save the money and put it in the Susu. They ain't playing with that because they want the cell phone, or they want to buy the sneakers, or they want to buy this, that, the other, and the next. In the same way, you could throw a hand in a Susu and get $1,100 or $1,500 and go and do one of these courses and improve yourself, even if you don't have maths and English. You could still go and get one of these skills, a variety of things that you could do. I make the point. Simple thing, taxation. Some of these young people have the passes, but your passes alone wouldn't help you. If you go and do a short course in taxation, you have a lot of small businesses who need to do their taxes. Look, right now we have an amnesty until the 17th of next month. You know many small businesses behind on the taxes? But they figure it will cost too much money to hire a professional to do it. So they're just going to continue to owe the government until the government decide to audit them. And there's thousands of dollars that they have to end up spending in penalties and interest. When they could have taken that same money, right, and invest in some young people in the community and teach them, send them to do the course to learn how to do corporate taxes and business tax, the tax returns and all of these different things, and hire them. You might hire them, help them to start up their own business, and you just go with all of your documents and you carry it there. They do it for you and bring it back. They could even go and file it too, and you pay them a fee. And they could start a business from there. Go around the neighborhood and find out what are the needs. What are the things that you're spending money on outside of the community, and how could we bring it into the community to make these underprivileged communities privileged? But we're not talking about that. Go and find a work. Go and challenge. Go by the Chinese. Right? And these are the things that we need to be discussing. We have all of these communities and all of these underprivileged communities. What are they doing? Is only there to rent out when you need to have a wedding reception or the repast for a funeral. These are facilities that should be used for these things. And if persons are genuinely interested in battling crime, then this is what you need to do. Give the young people options. Free of charge. You own a business. Pay some money for the refreshments. And encourage young people, not just the young people, because you have persons who middle age and so on, who are looking for work too. Some of these are skilled craftsmen, but they just don't know where to look for the work, and the work is there. Teach them how to do RFPs, how to companies that are doing pre-qualifications for different things. Right now, TNTech has a pre-qualification exercise going on for small and medium-sized contractors to get contracts of up to $500,000 for a variety of different things. If you're a caterer, you could cook. They have pre-qualification for that too. You could get a contract from TNTech for some function or something to provide catering services for $100,000, $200,000, but we're not looking at these things. Or we're talking about the government and the government, and everything is the government and the government. The private sector don't have a role to play in this country. It's only the government's responsibility. Everything is on the shoulder of the government. Well, we continue to talk the government talk and see how far that will get us. See how far that will get us. And then 10 years from now, 20 years from now, continue. And let us see who are the ones building the generational wealth. And who's still talking about me and I ain't leaving no money for no next man to spend it when I did. And who don't want to build? I mean, let me talk this talk, okay? Just for a few more minutes. About 10 minutes again, right? I mean, there's my personal life I talk more there, right? And I had an uncle, and I could have never understand this. This man working TSTT for years. Big supervisor, making ton of money. Living in a old wooden house that he bought how much donkey years before. And refused to fix the house. The house leaned and refused to fix it. Why? Because he don't want to spend the money. Because he say next thing he did, and his wife bring her next man to come and live in the house that he spent his money on. That was the mindset. All this money I'm making on. Company took VSEP from TSTT. Get over $1 million and refused to spend the money. Till my mother, that's my mother's brother and stuff like that, boy, what is he really doing? Right? And eventually he gave in, and well, his wife, my aunt, well, she went abroad, work and stuff, and come back and earn her US dollars. And she ended up they started the project and they ended up building the house. But for years, I used to wonder, this man making all money, and every New Year's Day when the family had to go by him to Lime for New Year's Day. And this old house, this old lean wooden shack. You're afraid to go inside because you figure it might lean and fall down with you inside it. Till he finally had to give in and build a proper house. But shortly after he retired, he took visa from TSTT. Unfortunately, he passed away. We see the same thing. My aunt still end up with the money. She still end up with the house. She ain't bring no next man in the house. But that for years, you living in an old house because you say you could dead, and she will bring her next man in the house. You're dead. What the hell? What does it matter? What does it matter? The money there is still in the bank. The house there, it can help you. He's not even in a grave because he was cremated. So that's the mindset of some of us. That's the mindset. And in the meantime, you deprive your children of benefiting generational wealth, where you could through the use of life insurance, leave millions even though you're not a millionaire. And that is the point that I often make to some of my clients. That is what it is there for. Because $2 million in cash in the bank and $2 million in a life insurance policy is still $2 million. And it's easier for your family to get the $2 million from the life insurance policy. You know why? Because in the bank, where they don't allow you to, when there's not the facility to leave a beneficiary, when you die, if you don't leave a will, and even if you leave a will, your family had to spend money to probate the will, to pay lawyer big money to probate the will so they could get access to the money in the bank. They still have to do that. So the money tied up in the bank anyway, until it is that they could get legal title to be able to go in the bank and say, well, look, I am the rightful owner of this new account, this account now. Whereas with the life insurance policy, you leave somebody as beneficiary, and a week or 2 weeks after you're dead, they get that money. But we ain't studying that, right? All who want to buy land, same thing, but it's easier. When you buy a piece of land for $2 million, you have to pay stamp duty and all of these different fees. And then if you die and your family need to sell the land because they need money, same thing again, money you have to spend to get a lawyer to do title search and all of this kind of thing. Whereas with the life insurance policy, money easy. You bring in the policy contract, the death certificate, and the other documents, and you get your money. And you don't have to be a millionaire to leave millions. You do not have to be a millionaire to leave millions. And I don't know how else to impress that on my people. But no, I'm leaving all that money for my children for. So that they could start the process of building generational wealth. If you do not come from wealth, wealth can come from you. But let it start some 1 year from now, and 20 years from now. We're still seeing people who look like me lying down on the pavement, either with a bullet in the head, or their hands behind their back and they're in handcuffs. Because those who came before them didn't do what they needed to do, because they didn't ask to come here. You, either with a bullet in the head, or their hands behind their back and they're in handcuffs. Because those who came before them didn't do what they needed to do, because they didn't ask to come here. You made them. But for all these children now who catching their tail, who are actually going by the traffic light, to clean windshield and begging for $2 and $3, right? And frustrating drivers. And the drivers, no, but they insist, right? Because at least they're not taking up a life of crime. But they still have to put up with the embarrassment of people telling them all kind of things, and sometimes when the police pass and run them. But every day they get up at the crack of dawn. And that's what they're doing, whole day, hot sun, rain. They buy the traffic light. I could clean your windshield, sir. I could clean your windshield, sir. Yeah. But again, look at the ethnic background, the majority of them who doing it. Look and see. And why is it? Why is that so? Right? Where the parents? Where the parents? Parents don't care. Some of them supporting their parents on that. And that should not be the case. I always make the point that choices that parents make will impact what it is that your children come out in life. If you choose to embrace poverty, to normalize poverty, then that is what you're passing on to them. You rob them and deprive them of opportunities because you chose to embrace poverty, and so you cannot afford to give them the things that they need so that they can realize the true and fullest potential. And so that they end up dropping out of school. And they end up going by the traffic light to clean windshield. Yeah? All of them who want to hold their head high. And this is another issue that I have too. When it is that you as a parent, you know that your child does not have the academic wherewithal to go to certain schools, right? But you want to pull a string so they could get into the so-called prestige school. So that you could hold your head high, so that when people ask you, what school your son passed for? He passed for CIC. He passed for Fatima. How he pass? 20%. You pull a string and he gets in and you happy, right? But for the next 5 to 7 years, the child had a struggle. He has to struggle because he can't keep up. And I know parents who do that. You're not helping your child. As somebody who went to CIC, I know I saw people, students who went through that. They just could not make every term they come in last. When you look at somebody's scores, it's telling yourself, how the hell you end up here? Why? Because mommy and daddy pull a string. Because yeah, they come there. And while you happy like papi, you get opportunity to say your child passed for this school. Child suffering, can't keep up. I knew when I was going to CIC, twins, one boy bright as a bulb and the other brother, I don't want to call the boy dunce. But let's just say he wasn't academically inclined. And people used to make fun of him and say, but like when Oli was in the womb, he take all the brain. They made real fun of this boy. But give this boy a piece of wood and a carving knife and he would blow your mind. Things that he could, I was amazed. But that was his talent. That was his skill. But the parents put him in a school where they didn't have that facility to develop that. Because CIC don't have that. Woodwork and all them things, CIC don't have that. Whereas if you had sent the boy to a school where that was available, he could have honed on those skills. But because you wanted to say, well, I sent my child, here he passed for CIC, the two of them passed for CIC. And don't understand the psychological damage that you're doing to your child at every time because he's struggling to keep up and can't keep up. And every day he going to school and they're laughing at him and telling him he's stupid and he's dotish. So that you could hold your head up and say he passed for thing. And then when time comes for CX, how much passes your child get? And you're lying through your teeth. Yeah, you get 8. Well, technically, you get 8 5s or 8 4s. That's your fault. That is your fault. Parents need to understand that the choices that you make, right? Some people in this country who have children and calling themselves parents, you all should not call yourselves parents. The sperm donor and surrogate. You are not parents because you do not fulfill the role of parents. Every time the child born, right? And depending on your age, you want to stick them on the grandparents. You want to continue to live life as if it is you and have no child. You want to continue to wear the brands and continue to rent car every weekend and you're going fat and doing everything as if it is you don't have a child. Right? And you figure because you buy milk and Pampers and the grandparents that take care of them, that everything good and you are a parent. You are not a parent. Stop calling yourself that. And that is the problem. Children making children. People who are not prepared for parenting, having children. And then what? Society now has to become the surrogate for these children because you ain't doing what you're supposed to do. and the child not academically and you drop out of school, and you happy because you don't have to find money to buy uniform, you don't have to find money to buy books, you don't have to find money to pay passage. And you couldn't care less what he or she doing during the day when you go to work. Because you could say, well, I send them to school and they do nothing in school and they drop out. And it's not my fault, it's your fault. It's your fault. So that when it is that your daughter end up with a child when she's 14 or 16, right? Because you push a man in the corner, find she looking good, and you allow her to leave home in some kind of clothes that make no sense. That's your fault. When you're in your late 30s and you're a grandparent, that is your fault. You do that, right? When it is you get a call and they tell you that like, the police now hold your son on the corner there, that's your fault. What are you doing there? What was he doing there at 14 and 16 years old? That 14-year-old was caught up in that home invasion. What he was doing there? Parents. Folks, we will continue this discussion on another day. Yeah, because I tend to get a little hot and bothered with this kind of conversations, right? But it had to be said. It had to be said. So we will continue that discussion. Now, I know this weekend, Sunday is the PNM's Family Day, and I did give a commitment to some of the other folks, the admins on the Debunking UNC Facebook page, that we would go up to the PNM's Family Day up in Toko. So we'll play it by ear and see how things work out on Sunday. I'll still try to do the show on Sunday morning, but we will let you all know for sure. Right? So, yeah. So again, thank you all. I know I always say that I wasn't going to do a long live this morning. It always ends up being long. But for all the folks on Facebook, all the folks on YouTube, thank you all so much for listening. Hopefully, I did order some equipment online that would enable us to take calls. That equipment is supposed to be coming in, I think, tomorrow or over the weekend. So once it arrives, hopefully by next week or next weekend, I should be in a position for us to start taking calls. Yeah? So, yes, putting things in place. We need to make this thing official. Just taking calls. Yeah? So, yes, putting things in place. We need to make this thing official. Juliana's the wife, Dominic. All right, Juliana. But Kubana Shah says it's necessary, Dominic. We got to talk the things. Yes, we have to talk the things. Well said, enlightening. Thank you. Annette Neptune said, we all have to help in changing the mindset of these young ones. Yes, so true. Parents scorned all Dr. Williams schools with tons of resources. They were ashamed. Yeah. When Kumana Sharan again says, my granny used to call parents like that, turtle parents. They make the children and they leave for the child to make it on their own or for somebody else to mind. So true. So true. But I still have to discuss the issue of NIS as I had promised Mr. Chance. And I think, again, I will also be discussing estate planning too. Again, so as I said, I lecture in that. So I'm going to touch on that one of these days. So have a good day, folks. Enjoy the rest of your day. And hopefully we'll see how things play out on Sunday. I'm sure some of you all will probably be going up to the PNM's Family Day. So, hey, if you're all there, we could bounce up, meet up in person, and so on. So, thank you all again. Patricia McKenzie, Annette Neptune, Camilla Dean, Freddie Williams. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, all of you. And we will chat again, hopefully on Sunday, or if not, next week. But hopefully from next week, we can start taking calls, right? So, enjoy the rest of your day. And I am out for now. Remember to share the live, share the live, share the live.